for the chair portion. Then the chair will take over and officiate for the election of the vice chair. Now, this is the first time, and I should say before we get going, that we've done this entirely online. You may recall that the last time we did an election, it was a hybrid type meeting. So in this particular case, we're doing it completely online. We'll give you a little backdrop on that just for some context. Currently, we have a lot of COVID cases in our organization, and welcome Mo as well. I've mentioned this to Mo already, but you know, in our recycling facility, for example, we usually have about 18 people in that facility. Out of the 18, right now we have 3 that don't have COVID.
Wow.
Yes. So there's a lot of it out there, and I think it's wise that we're doing this remotely for this particular meeting. So I'll go on with my spiel on the election. Just for context, the chairperson shall, if present, preside over all the meetings of the commission, sign all instruments that require their signature, and shall perform all duties incident to his or her office, and be assigned such powers and duties as may time to time be given to them by resolution of the commission. So with that, I'll open the floor for nominations. I will be calling for nominations 3 times. The person nominated must obviously accept the nomination because they're going to be the ones that are going to have to do the job. And you're also welcome to self-nominate. So with that, do I have any nominations for chair? Judy?
I would like to nominate John Bigger for chair.
All right, John Bigger, do you accept?
Yes, I accept.
Okay. Do I have any other nominations for chair? Any other nominations for chair? All right, well, I'll now declare the floor closed to nominations for chair. That makes it easy. There's no need for an online vote. And congratulations, John. You are the chairperson.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody, for your support as well over the past year. It's been a bit of a trying time, but anyway, we'll make it through. So now, excuse me, I got a bit of a head cold here as well. So now we'll have the election for vice chairs, and I'll call for nominations from the floor, please. Judy?
I'd like to nominate Mike Chamberlain for vice chair.
Mike?
Yes, fine with me.
Okay.
Excuse me, do we have a seconder for that?
I'll second that, Kelly.
John Williamson. Yeah. Are there any more nominations for vice chair? Are there any further nominations for vice chair? There being no other nominations, I move that the nominations cease, and that since it's by act nobody run against Mike, that I appoint him, or he's appointed as vice chair by acclamation.
Elected.
Congratulations, Mike.
Thank you.
Good night.
Okay, we get through that. Thank you, everybody. Approval of the agenda, please. Moved
So
by
move, Judy.
Judy, second by,
Yeah. John, is that the amended agenda?
yes, sorry. This is a motion for the amended agenda. Moved by
Thank
Judy,
you.
I'll second it,
Okay.
Peter.
seconded by Peter
Morrison.
Morrison, sorry.
I don't know how many Peters there are, but
I get everybody on a small screen here, and it just shows up in green, and I can look around to see who it is.
Okay.
Sorry.
Okay.
So anything on the question?
Question.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? In my opinion, the motion was approved. Conflict of interest disclosure. Are there any? Adoption of the minutes for March 1st, 2022, moved by
So moved, Dale.
Dale Morey, seconded by Bob Powell. Anything on the question? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The motion's carried. Committee reports, the audit committee, Director Maury, please.
Okay, I'll go through it here. Excuse me. The audit committee report, April 5th, 22. The audit committee met on March the 28th of 22. In attendance was myself as a chair, Robert Powell, vice chair, and John Williamson and Judy Wilson Shea, Mary Kay Langton, Brett McRae, McMillan, Lawrence, Darren, and Ross Craig. The meeting was called to order by the chair at 1:05. The audit committee has met on 2 occasions with respect to the presentation and review of the draft audit statements that are being presented to the board at this annual general meeting. The first meeting was reported to you during the February board meeting and dealt with preparations for the audit. At the meeting on March 28th, we reviewed the results of the audit with Macmillan and Lawrence and satisfied ourselves that the process and draft statements were appropriate. Attached to your information is a copy of the accountant's management letter, audit findings letter, as well as the draft audit report. You will note there are correspondence that in all cases that did not find any weakness in our system and have any disagreements, management, nor encountered any significant difficulties. An in-camera session with the accountants was held, which did not include staff. This session did not reveal any issues with which it should be concerned. Finally, we reviewed the staff report from acting executive director attached, recommending the appointment of the auditors for the fiscal year 2022. The committee endorsed this recommendation by staff. Being there no further business, meeting was adjourned at 1:50. And I have motion here. Motion is, I move that the board receive the report of the audit committee dated April 5, 22.
Heard the
I'll
motion.
second that.
Second.
Seconded by Bob Powell. Excuse me. Anything on the question? All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
I have another motion.
Should we hear the report of the McMillan and Lawrence
Okay, yes, we can.
and then do that motion after that?
Okay, sounds good.
I see Darren Lawrence here from McMillan, Lawrence and Lawrence. Darren, would you like to walk us through the draft financial statements for 2021, please?
Yes, no, I'll take you through the statements. So thank you, folks. My name is Darren Lawrence. I'm a partner with McMillan, Lawrence and Lawrence, and thanks for having us here tonight. I can take you through the draft financial statements. And if you have any questions, feel free to ask me as we go along here. So I will take you through the draft financials. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to share my screen and we'll go from there. Okay, so hopefully you can all see my screen. This is the draft financial statements for Regional Service Commission 11 for the year ending December 31st, 2021. You will notice that on the financials, it does say draft discussion only. That's because they are in draft and they will not go final until the board approves the financial statements. If the board approves them, we will remove our watermark and provide a final set of financials. Okay, so the first page we come to is the contents page. These financial statements consist of our independent auditor's report, the statement of financial position, statement of operations and accumulated surplus, statement of changes in net financial assets, statement of cash flows, the notes to the financials, and various schedules to the financials. The next page is our independent auditor's report. There was nothing that came to our attention during the year that would cause us to qualify our audit opinion. You'll notice that in the second paragraph here, it does state that in our opinion, the accompanying financial statements present fairly the financial position of the commission as at December 31st, 2021, and the results of its operations for the year then ended in accordance with Canadian public sector accounting standards. So it was a clean audit opinion. There was nothing that come to our attention that would cause us to qualify it. So that's very good news. I won't take you through the details of the opinion. It's standard wording, and the wording is similar to the prior year. I'm going to skip the statement of financial position for the time being, and I'm going to go to page 4, the statement of operations. So for revenue for the year, you had sale of services of 6.94 million, member charges 4.9 million, other revenue 132,000. You had some grants and interest revenue. So total revenue for the year was 12.13 million. For expenditures, you had administration expenditures, 2.5 million, fiscal services, 129,000, governance, 59,000, planning and building inspection services, 865,000, post-closing costs, 342,000, and solid waste services, 7.8 million. So total expenditures, 11.8 million. That resulted in an annual surplus before unrealized gain on investments of 328,000. That was up from 233,000 in the prior year. You had an unrealized gain on investments of 423,000, up from 239,000 in the prior year, leaving you with an annual surplus of 752,000 for the year. Started off with an accumulated surplus at the beginning of the year of 12.1 million, and you end up with an accumulated surplus of 12.8 million at the end of the year. So overall, things are going in the right direction. As you'll see, your annual surplus of 752 is up from 472 in the prior year. It's nice to see everything going in the right direction. I'm going to go back one page to page 3 to your statement of financial position. So at December 31st, you had financial assets, you had cash and cash equivalents of 2.9 million, receivables 1.3 million, inventory 76,000, investments 5.1 million. So total financial assets of 9.55 million. Liabilities, payables and accruals 681,000. I'm going to touch on the larger numbers. I'm not going to go through every number of the statements. You had a retiring allowance liability of 658,000, long-term debt of 3,093,000, and accrued post-closing costs of 4.6 million. So you notice your liabilities have come down to 9.2 million during the year. And that actually leaves you with net financial assets at the end of the year of 297,000 rather than net debt. So again, everything's going in the right direction. So that's quite a change from the prior year balance. So for non-financial assets, you had tangible capital assets of 12.3 million. So that leaves you with an accumulated surplus at the end of the year of 12.8 million. Okay. I'm going to go on to page 5, your statement of changes in net financial assets. You'll see you started with net debt at the beginning of the year of 1 million. You ended up with net financial assets at the end of the year of 297,000. Statement of cash flows for operating activities. You had cash flows provided by operating activities of 2.2 million. Cash flows used in capital activities of 1.6 million. And cash flows used in financing activities, 797,000. And cash flows used in investing activities, 329,000. So that leaves you with cash and cash equivalents of 2.9 million at the end of the year. Moving on to the notes to the financial statements, nature of operations, similar wording to the prior year. Note 2, significant accounting policies. A lot of these notes are similar to the prior year, and there was nothing out of the ordinary that came to our attention that we need to discuss with the board. So I'm going to skip a few of these pages. Most of you have seen them before. Note 3 on page 10 of the printed statements shows a breakdown of your restricted and unrestricted cash. Receivables, note 4, shows you your solid waste receivables, recycling, power generation, HST, leaving you for total receivables of 1.38 million. No loan receivable at the end of the year. Investments, you had cash with a fair value of 211,000, balance funds with a fair value of 4.9 million. So accrued, note 7, accrued post-closing costs. Says the accrued liabilities for post-closing costs has been determined based on the estimated post-closing costs of 566,000 per year. You'll notice that in the last paragraph, the estimated post-closure liability is 4.6 million, of which the commission has funded with investments with a market value of 5.1 million. So you do have that properly funded, which is good. Note 8 is a breakdown of your long-term debt for a total of 3,093,000. We'll go on here to, let's see here. Let's skip some of these notes. I'm going to take you to Schedule 1, and if I'm going too fast, please feel free to slow me down, and I can go into a little more detail. But there are a lot of numbers here, and I don't want to go too deep into the detail unless you wish. So Schedule 1, this is a schedule of your tangible capital assets. So for the year ending December 31st, this is your balance of your tangible capital assets on December 31st. The top part of this table is the cost. The middle part is your accumulated amortization and your amortization during the year. And that leaves you with your net book value at the end of the year, broken out by the various items being land improvements, etc. So total net book value, 12.3 million at the end of the year. And then that's broken out further down below, broken out by local planning assets, landfill assets, recycle assets, and power generation assets. Okay. The next page is the same schedule, only for the prior year. So I'm going on to Schedule 2, which is your schedule of reconciliation of annual surplus, broken out by the various funds. You have the planning operating fund, sorry, the cooperative and regional planning operating fund, local planning operating fund, etc. So it comes down, and then it comes down to your surplus per the province of New Brunswick requirements at the bottom. Next page is a continuation of the various funds. And it shows that your annual surplus per province of New Brunswick requirements, disclosure requirements is 2.9 million. Okay. 2 pages are the same schedule for the prior year. Schedule 3 is a schedule of your segment disclosure. So your revenue and your expenditures. So total revenue, 12.1 million, expenses 11.8, leaving you with annual surplus of 752,000. So we're now on to page 24 of the printed statements. So schedule 4 is a schedule of your statement of reserves. Okay. Schedule 5 is a schedule of your operating budget to PSA budget. Okay. So you have your revenue, your expenditures, and broken out by the various, by cooperative services operating budget, cooperative and regional planning operating budget, etc. And there's the schedule for the prior year. And here's the schedule with a detailed detail of your revenue and expenditures. And I'll spend a little more time on this than I did schedules, because the previous schedules were more breaking things out in a more granular level. So this is a schedule which further breaks down the statement of operations that we went through earlier in the statement. So this provides you a little more detail on your revenue and your expenditures. So the first column here is your 2021 budget numbers. The second column is your actual numbers for the 2021, and the third column is the actual numbers for 2020. So for revenue, sale of services, you'll see that industrial, commercial, and institutional tipping fees were up quite a bit to 4.7 million. Recycling materials was up to 716,000. Power generation was up to 1,078,000. So your total revenue of sale of services is 6.9 million. Member charges. You have cooperative regional planning fees of 73,000, local planning and inspection services 1.4 million, and tipping fees 3.4 million. Other revenue, so for expenditures, you have administration expenditures broken down by executive director's office, financial management expenditures. I think it's pretty consistent with the prior year, and then other expenditures as well. So totaling 146,000 other expenditures. So for administration, local planning office, you had a total of 454,000 in expenditures this year. Solid waste office for administration, you had a total of 1.5 million. For governance, the total was 56,000. Planning and building inspection services. So for planning services, it was 469,000. Then we come down to your solid waste services. Landfill operation, 2.1 million. waste diversion, 1.1 million, amortization, 1.8 million, generation facility, the total expenditures was 1,079,000 for a total of 7.8 million of solid waste expenditures. I know I went a little quick through the financial statements. Some people may feel it was a little long, so I'm trying to keep it to an acceptable level for everyone. Anyhow, are there any questions on the financial statements at this point? Okay, sorry. See, Dave has his hand up.
Yeah, I'm just wondering why the land value doesn't appreciate.
Sorry, why it doesn't depreciate?
No, why it doesn't appreciate. Why it doesn't go up in value.
Okay, the land is recorded on your books at cost. So quite often with financial statements, you record land on a set of books at your costs and you depreciate it over time. Most of your assets are recorded at fair value, but land and buildings, they're recorded at book value. And
I know land normally doesn't depreciate, but shouldn't it appreciate in value? If you look at land sales around the area, you think the land would go up?
It does, but on a set of financial statements are typically recorded on a historical cost basis, not the value of the land. So that's the way the accounting standards require us to present it. But you're certainly right. The land and the equipment and everything has likely has significant more value than what's on the books.
Yeah, I can see, like, buildings and equipment certainly depreciates over time. But usually where land doesn't depreciate, it usually goes up in value. I'm just wondering why, I guess if that's the rules, that's the rules, but you think it would go up in value.
Absolutely, it would go up in value. And yeah, those are the accounting standard rules, and which and a lot of people have had the same question and the same issue, because you record cash at fair value, we record your investments at fair value. So when your investments go up, it goes through your financial statements and you see the impact on their bottom line. Your payables, your receivables, everything's recorded at fair value. Unfortunately, your property and equipment, not at fair value. They're at historical costs, and we are required to present them that way.
Okay. I had my appraisal hat on rather than my accountant's hat on.
Yeah.
I don't know a lot about accounting.
No, but that's the one thing is different, and of course the appraisal numbers are much more relevant.
Okay, fair enough. Thank you.
From a value perspective.
Yeah, good to know.
Yep.
Are there, excuse me, any other questions for either Darren or Ross? Okay, being no further questions, Dale, you have a motion?
Yes, I do. Okay, I move that the board receive and approve the December 31st, 2021 draft financial statements of Regional Service Commission 11.
Seconded, Bob Powell.
Anything on the question? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. Thank you guys for presenting that to us. It was pretty clear in my mind, and I'm not an accountant by any stretch of the imagination, but thank you for your work and coming tonight and giving us the report.
Okay, thank you. Okay, thank you for your time, folks. We'll take off.
Thank you.
Thanks, Dan.
Okay, bye now.
Okay, now I'll go to staff reports. Brett, please.
Sure.
Yes, we are.
We have
Yes.
another motion, right? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, but it's covered in the staff report.
To appoint the auditors?
The background for it is in the staff report, and then we'll have the motion that Dale will present then.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, I'd be happy to go through that. As required in our procedural bylaws, we do need to appoint our financial auditor annually at the annual general meeting. And so here we are. The background is that we're in a unique position of having to operate under two different accounting systems. Our annual budget, as I'm sure many of you are aware, is done under the municipal accounting system. However, we use the public sector accounting system when doing our audited results, which you just saw. And so McMillan Lawrence and Lawrence have been in our audits for many years, as I'm sure many of you are aware, and they're in the, again, a unique position where they're familiar with both accounting systems. So what we have as a proposal in front of us this evening is we've got a quote from McMillan Lawrence and Lawrence of $23,025 plus HST for the 2022 audit. And for context, this compares to their quote in 2021 of $22,350, $21,700 the previous year or the prior year, and $21,100 the year before that in 2019. So there are really just two options. One is that we go forward with appointing McMillan Lawrence and Lawrence for the fiscal year of 2022. The other would be that staff is given direction to go for tender to solicit proposals for a new auditor. So in this case, staff, our recommendation is that we go forward with option one, which would be appointing McMillan Lawrence and Lawrence for the 2022 fiscal year. They've done a great job in the past. We've had positive feedback from the Department of Environment and Local Government as to how good of a job that the firm has done for us in past years. And additionally, anecdotally, in discussing this with other regional service commissions, I think it's pretty clear that we receive good value for money. So with that, I would recommend option one, to retain McMillan Lawrence and Lawrence at the price listed in the report for the 2022 fiscal year. Mr. Chair.
Yeah. Thank you. Dale, would you like to make a motion, please?
Yes, I will, yes. All right, be it resolved that the board appoint the firm of McMillan Lawrence and Lawrence as auditors for Regional Service Commission 11 for the fiscal year ending December 31st, 22.
You heard the motion.
Second, Judy.
Second by Judy Wilson-Shi. Anything on the question? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. Brett, Commission Annual Report, please.
Thanks, Mr. Chair. Again, I'm sure many of us have seen these annual reports before. It certainly isn't the first one that we've produced. In fact, we're required to produce an annual report under the Regional Service Delivery Act. That act actually specifies what has to be contained in the report. So this won't deviate significantly from any of our past reports, other than the new achievements that we have listed in there. I won't go through the bullets of what has to be included, but it is pretty standard material. I think one of the newer items in this report, one of the big ones is our EIA. Obviously, that's of major significance to the commission, and it's going to result in some pretty significant cost savings going forward. So that report is included in your package. I hope everybody's had a chance to take a look at it. Eventually, once we approve this report, if the board chooses to do so, we'd combine that with the approved annual audit results, and then it'll go to translation, where it'll be produced in both official languages. After that, we will be in a position to forward on to you and to the communities that we serve. And so it's my recommendation that the board approve the attached draft annual report, and that can be accomplished by passing the motion that's included in my staff report.
You heard the recommendation of the acting executive director. Would somebody like to make the motion, please?
So moved, Peter Morrison.
It's
Second, Dave Morrison.
moved and seconded. Anything on the question? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. Thank you. Okay, an update on local government reform. Maurice Robichaud, please. Would you like to give us an update?
Yes, thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Good evening, everyone. Just a brief update tonight on how we're progressing with the Regional Service Commission taking on additional responsibilities over the course of the next several months. Things are progressing along now and actually starting to pick up on several fronts. As you know, we have a working group that's been established, as well as the advisory committee on community development, including regional transportation. The plan is still to go with ESIC, the Economic and Social Inclusion Corporation, and we're expecting the next version of the draft memorandum of understanding from ESIC sometime in the course of the next week. So once we've had a chance to go through that and Brett and I are comfortable with it, we'll then take it through the working group, through the advisory committee, and then up through to the entire board. On the Public Safety Committee, I realize there may be a little less work to do in this area in RSC11 on a Public Safety Committee. Nevertheless, the Department of Local Government informs us that they've had meetings with the Departments of Justice and Public Safety and should be in a position to provide us with some terms of reference for that committee in the course of the next week or two. They indicated last week it would be mid-April, so I'm expecting within the next week or two we should have some terms of reference from local government on the makeup of the Public Safety Committee. On economic development, tomorrow, Wednesday, tomorrow, we expect more definitive word from the province on the expected economic development mandates that would be carried out at the Regional Service Commission levels, and particularly as those mandates would complement the work of Opportunities New Brunswick, which it carries out at a more provincial level. Again, regarding economic development, our discussions with Ignite continue, and of course, with the more detail being provided, hopefully tomorrow, as we've been assured, we'll then be in a position to accelerate our discussions with Ignite in order to see how they may be able to assist with carrying out the economic development and potentially tourism promotion activities across RSC11. Speaking of Ignite, I should as well inform you, some of you may be aware of this, but as you know, I'm responsible not only for RSC11, but RSC12, the Western Valley. In my discussions with the folks in the working group and advisory committee levels in the Western Valley, there was some interest expressed in considering Ignite to potentially carry out the economic development activities in Regional Service Commission 12 as well as in 11. I want to underscore that there's no commitment that's been made one way or the other with regard to going ahead with that. What we have agreed on is that Larry will come to the next board meeting of the RSC at the end of April. We'll make a presentation on what Ignite is, who they are, what they do, and how they might be able to provide economic development services for the Western Valley RSC. Again, no decision's been made. We're a long way from the finish line on that one, but I'll certainly keep you informed on how those discussions proceed with RSC 12. Regarding hiring of CEOs and a CEO specifically for RSC 11, as well as the other RSCs, the recruitment firm has been engaged by the province, and the process of carrying out competitions for those positions is really officially underway. It's expected that these positions will be filled by September of this year. That's really about what my update consists of this evening. I don't have many more other details that I can provide, but I am open to answering any questions that you may have that may come to mind. Brett as well, he's around if there are questions that are more specifically related to his role, but certainly I'll do my best. So I see Judy Wilson, she has her hand up.
Hi, Maurice. I've got a couple questions. The first one, when the CEO's position has been filled, will the ED position be phased out?
At the moment, that is not the plan. At the moment, you could have a situation, and again, hypothetical in the extreme, but you could have a situation where Brett, and I don't even know whether he's applying, but you could have a situation where Brett would apply for that position of CEO. Brett may get that position. He may not. If he did not get that position, he would revert back to his ED position or acting ED position. And then, of course, it remains to be seen what happens to the term acting in front of ED, but he would in principle go back to his executive director position. I guess it's not beyond a reasonable doubt that if Brett were to become the executive director, he may, or someone else may choose to phase out the executive director position, but that's not the plan at the present time. Obviously, the person who's in the CEO position would have responsibility for the organization going forward and would have to determine in concert with the board of directors, what staffing decisions and what the organization would look like going forward.
Thank you. And
Okay.
the next one, and the reason why I'm bringing it up, because there's so much information out there, and I don't know if it's being relayed back to us how it's actually supposed to happen. So I am going to ask you, and it's a concern of mine with our 2023 budget. Normally what's always happened, it comes to the board. The board looks it over, and then the board takes it back to their respective community. And like in my case, I take it back to my council, and they would tell me whether I vote in favor of it or against it. Then we all come back to the table, and then we do our voting around the table. And as long as it's passed, then it goes on to the government. Is that the way it's going to be done?
Well, in fairness, there is a little bit of confusion at the moment as to exactly and precisely the process that's going to be carried out, Judy, with regard to budget making, and so I'm gonna look into that further. We are looking into it at the moment with the department, and we don't have any kind of definitive response as to the exact procedure that we will be carrying out, but I am looking into it. I've discussed it with the department as early as I think Friday or Monday of this past week. So it's a matter of getting some clear definition as to exactly how it's going to be carried out. But rest assured that as soon as I have that information, I will forward it to Brett and ensure that he disseminates it to all of you around the table this evening.
Thank you. And the reason why I brought that up is because, I mean, I've been getting a lot of written documentation from UMNB and from this organization. And one of the questions in it was, who's going to be responsible for the budget for the regional service commissions? Will it be the board or the facilitator, the translator, transition leader? And the answer was that the facilitator will oversee the budget and will take it to the government. And that's caused me a lot of confusion. And I bring it up with my counsel. I said, no, this is the way it's going. And I have had quite a chat with Brett, because I'm just looking for clarification. And that's how miscommunication gets out there, and then people get quite concerned. So I will wait, and I appreciate when you can find some answers to this for me and relay it back to Brent, and he can relay it to the board.
Okay, I will endeavor to do that. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Appreciate that.
Thank you. Okay, I see a couple of hands. Michael?
Mike?
My question's been answered. Thank you.
Okay. Leo?
Leo?
Yes, I still have the same old question. You've got a lot of things on the go, and you've got a lot of things in progress, but us in the rural section have absolutely zero information. Nothing has been passed on. We are totally blind as to what's going on. I'm sorry, but that's the way it is.
Yeah, no, please, I understand completely. In fact, I'm going to handle any other questions that may come up. And before I finish, I want to throw out a question about exactly what you're talking about. It was on my agenda, if you will, to raise at this meeting, the need for communication. So instead of getting into that discussion now and then coming back to more questions after, maybe we'll deal, if we can, Leo, for the moment with the questions. And then once we're done, before we wrap up, I want to throw a question back at you folks just to get, so Brett and I get some information as to what might be needed, when it might be needed, etc. Are there any other questions regarding the RSC process? Yes. Mr. Powell. Bob.
Bob, you're on mute.
There you go. Probably better as on mute, probably. Maurice, could you still explain to me why we need a CEO over top of the director?
The answer is going to be pretty much the same as it was, but I'll try and explain it again. We're in a situation where the regional service commissions have been around now for a few years. They've obviously done some very good work, and for that they're being rewarded with additional responsibilities. In some instances, you've got regional service commissions that have, residents that are numbering in the 100,000. In other instances, you've got RSCs that have 20 or 25,000 residents. RSC11, I was told today, is geographically the same size as PI, I think it is. So we're talking of a very significantly large RSC, one of the biggest, if not the biggest, in the province. The feeling is that if we're going to provide the residents of the province of New Brunswick, by way of the regional service commissions, a whole host of additional services on top of the couple that are currently offered to those residents, right? It's going to require a different skill set that has been in place with the executive directors. And, we're learning that now, us facilitators who are working with the search firm in trying to identify exactly the kinds of skills that are going to be required. We're going to be looking at individuals who are going to have experience at obviously overseeing the direct delivery of a variety of services, far greater than the variety of services that are currently being administered and overseen by the executive director. Secondly, they're going to be having to oversee the delivery of those services by a variety of means. Some instances, they'll be delivered directly by the RSC. In other instances, they'll be delivered by a third party. In other instances, they'll be delivered by a combination of the two, and there could be any number of those combinations. So the bottom line is the position is going to be far more complex one than it currently is the case. And it was felt by the province that it would be important to elevate the function and the requirements of the function to a higher level in order to ensure that it could be those services could be properly delivered within the 12 regions of the province.
So what's their salary going to be?
I don't know. I haven't seen a salary scale yet. I don't know that any of my colleagues have seen the salary scale yet. So I can't answer that question. I don't know. I don't know what it is. We're having a call with the search firm. I had one yesterday, but we're having a larger one on Friday of this week. We may get some more information on that at that time, but we'll be making information like that public in due course. The competitions aren't going to be held for some time. The positions are expected to be filled by September. So we do have plenty of time to divulge salary ranges and job descriptions and so on and so on.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Bob. Anyone else? Any other questions?
Maurice, it's Peter Morrison here. I just have a very simple question.
Sure, Peter.
Can you share with us the name of the recruitment firm that's being used to recruit the CEO?
Sure, it's not a state secret. It's Knightsbridge,
Yes.
Robertson Surrett.
Robertson Surrett. Thank you.
Yeah. Any other questions? Okay, well, thanks for those questions. I do appreciate it. And as we move along, we'll have more information to share. But I've made note of the question that Judy had and others have as well with regard to the budget approval process, and we'll get back to you just as soon as we get that information. So back to Leo's point about information. The department has made it clear that, well, let me step back. With the work that's going on with entities, Obviously, that work has generated a lot of questions from residents and others in various communities. And a number of the entities have embarked on upgrades or developments of websites. Some of them are doing a public consultation name search to name the new entity. Some are doing a newsletter, some are doing a Facebook page, etc. And it's been made clear to us that if we feel there's a need for any kind of public information, public dissemination of information about where we're at with the expansion of the role of the RSCs, that we should carry that out. We should carry out that communication. And so I wanted to throw the question out to this group. Is there a feeling that there's a need to provide more information about what's happening at the Regional Service Commission level? And if there is, what type of information do people feel we should be making public? And what would be your suggestion as to the best timing? In terms of the ways in which we do that, I'm sure Brett and I can figure that out, but I'd be most interested in hearing your thoughts on what needs to be communicated. Is there a need? What needs to be communicated, and what kind of timing you would see as being most appropriate to do that? Michael? Michael, you're on mute. Your hand's up there, but maybe.
Sorry about that. I was just saying that I think it's important that the same message get out to everyone. That all of us don't start, doing our own little thing on Facebook or whatever.
Right.
I think it should be issued by RSC11 perhaps, and probably keep it short and to the point. Thank you.
Okay. Others? Leo, you were suggesting that information needs to get out. Do you want to be a little more specific about what your thoughts are on that, please?
Yes, I went to a breakfast, community breakfast in another neighboring LSD. And there, of course, they asked me questions. What's happening? What are we doing? We have absolutely nothing in any way. We have no map. We have no boundary lines. We don't know what our population is going to be. And to say that we're going to be well represented, we'll be able to vote for somebody. That's something that's going to be really hard to figure out how the voting system is going to work. We're going to drop from 6 votes on this board to 1. Basically, what it's going to wind up, our rural area will have 1 vote. So we just don't know how it's going to be set up. And I think when you have your plans and what's going on in RSC11, what they're taking over, we should at least contact the LSD chairs that are not in the grouping, and let them know what's happening, because what you decide on your transportation or be it any of the things that RSC11 is taking over, we have no idea what's happening. There's just nothing. And as you said, you gave out that information, and I hear about the name changes, and that there was a deadline. I guess I heard there was a deadline. Some of these communities had to make up their choice. For Metro Chipman, for example. Okay, I'm in going to be wind up Sheffield, Majorville, Noonan, and so on and so forth. So I have no idea who's going to make up that, or do we just keep the name rural and nobody know what we're doing? That's just, there's nothing there.
Okay, that's good. Well, thanks for that, Leo. Others, any other folks have thoughts on if and what we should be doing for information dissemination? Peter?
Yes, I understand what Leo is saying. In the rural, in the entities that are separate from the rural districts, we are communicating based upon what the advisory committee feels needs to be communicated. I mean. And that works well. I don't think it has to be the same for every entity, as Mike had suggested. But back to Leo's message, they don't have the core organization there, if I'm hearing you correctly, to establish what their needs might be in how they're going to communicate and who's going to communicate. And I think I fully understand his problem.
Mhm.
How it's resolved, I don't know.
My dumb question is, do we have a map?
Pardon? You don't even have a map.
No.
But that's what I'm saying, and this is, you're reporting into the minister. And so that message needs to get back to the minister.
I tried that.
I know, but that's a tough one.
Okay. Any other thoughts? Anyone else have any thoughts?
If I
Brett
could,
and sorry, go ahead, John.
yeah, not that I have a thought specific to the question of how and who might be communicating with all of the communities that will be within the RSC, whatever it ultimately will be called. I think Capital Region RSC, but the advisory committee that's been created might be a good place to get some thoughts, more specific thoughts on how communications to the various communities might be best done.
Good suggestion. Yeah, I wanted to get it going this evening, just on the heels of of a bit of an update as to where we're at. I wasn't planning to make this a working group session. I realized that you've been pretty efficient in your AGM, and so I don't want to delay people getting on to other things. But this has been helpful, and certainly Brett and I can take this back and we can work through the working group. But perhaps more pertinently, the advisory committee, given that it consists of elected officials,
Yes,
would be most apt to hear from folks on the ground what the mood is and what the concerns are. I see Greg has his hand up, and possibly Keith. Greg?
Thanks. No, yeah, I concur. I think keep the advisory group apprised of absolutely everything, and then we can have conversations with them about how they brief us as individuals, and then it doesn't distract the board from our other business unduly.
Fair enough. Yep. Thank you. Keith?
Yes. Our committee has went to the public for suggestions for names for our entity 67. And tomorrow night we'll be reviewing those names and shortlisting it. And whether we come up with an actual name tomorrow night, maybe not, but we will be shortlisting it and maybe next week coming up with a name.
Good. Okay. That's good. Congratulations. That's great work. Okay, Mr. Chair, I'm satisfied. We've done a bit of an update. I've tried to answer a few questions. I've gotten a bit of feedback on the communications front, which has been helpful. So unless there's anything else for me, thank you for the opportunity to attend, and I'll be back again next month, hopefully.
Great, thank you very much, Maurice, and thank you everybody that shared the information with Maurice to help them work through this. Being no further business on the agenda, I'd call for motion to adjourn, please.
So move, Judy.
Seconded, Bob Powell.
Seconded by Bob Powell. Meeting's adjourned. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Good night, everyone.